It's incredibly important for the late leads to not be blown away.
The most effective answer, it might be costly in terms of prospects and whatnot, but a quasi name brand reliever or somebody that has proved their mettle and might be slightly under the radar, that the Rays can put them in a role to be extremely successful in the later innings. Because
you are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Rays, your daily podcast covering everything Tampa Bay Rays, from game analysis to player interviews. We've got you covered with all the latest news and insights. My name is Captain Weiss.
I'm Ulises Sambrano,
bringing you expert analysis and passionate discussions about our beloved Rays.
We're here to break down every play, every trade, and every milestone. In fact, this is our 7th season covering the Rays daily.
So grab your favorite Rays gear and settle in as we discuss the Rays losing the series to the Minnesota Twins over the weekend in heartbreaking fashion on Friday and Saturday. We do, however, have a couple of all-stars representing our own team, plus the move that we've been screaming from the mountaintop for. That and more on today's episode.
That's right. But before we get to that, gotta tell you that this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Kevin.
Yes.
The last segment, we're going to talk about that move that we've been screaming about. Mm-hmm. But can we just say, like, if no one's going to, pat ourselves in the back, we might as well do that. And I think that's what we'll do in segment number 3.
Yes, that's what we will do. A particularly tall, talented, electric and hard-throwing right-handed pitcher was finally promoted to the Rays, a long time coming based on what he did in AAA so far this year and his very brief stint back in April with the Rays. So we'll talk about that and the impacts of that. But first, we should start with the Rays losing the series. They did salvage a victory on Sunday, winning 7-5. They almost blew it, or I should say the bullpen almost blew it. That was kind of the theme of the weekend. Rays bullpen troubles, plus unfortunate injury ailments, i.e. Ha-Seong Kim and Brandon Lowe. But on a positive angle, I guess the Rays showed that they can find ways to score runs in multiple different facets, via the bunt, via an infield chopper, via a sacrifice fly, via a home run, via a hit the other way, whatever it may be. But it was really unfortunate that victory was more or less stolen, potential victory on Friday and Saturday. And it's a team that, frankly, you should do better against, it even being on the road. But that's why we play the game of baseball. You win some, you lose some. You win some you probably should have lost, and you lose some that you probably should have won. And that was kind of the case, I think, of what happened this past weekend.
Yeah, it was a combination of things, right? First of all, I mean, you get walked off twice. That means that you were close in both games, so that's the silver lining. But Sunday, if we can kind of focus on that one, because that was just such a roller coaster. I mean, it was a long game too. Obviously, going into extra innings, seems like they played the whole bleeping Sunday. But yeah, the bullpen. We've talked about the concerns that we have. I think, well, now we know that Mason Montgomery has been sent down to AAA. Dude has electric stuff. I mean, you can't – it's not easy to find a guy who just can throw 101 from the left side and make it look that easy. Right. Mason Montgomery can. But
when you give up walks and homers, you're not going to be long in the tooth. Even if you are –
and we've seen this before, and I know that if you're an OG race fan, I kind of shout out to Austin Holloway, who helped me create this. Yeah, how about this? Because I think you're going to enjoy this, Kev. It's the same picture. If you're on YouTube, you can definitely find the meme. Hopefully funny if you saw what Enny Romero was. Am I wrong?
No. That graphic says it all. That meme says it all. And shout out to Austin Holloway for creating that, and hopefully people can get some chuckles and laughs, even as unfortunate as that is. So
yeah.
I don't know if we want to dwell too much on the series loss to the Twins, but I'll say this: the Rays need to pick it up and gather it back together quickly, because it doesn't get any easier as you're facing the Detroit Tigers this week, and then closing out the rest of the road trip before the All-Star break without maybe a couple key players. I know we were without Ha-Seong Kim the entire season, but he gets back, has a calf issue. Brandon Lowe, the 20-game hit streak comes to an end because he has an injury of his own, and it's it's just a tough situation, unfortunately, and hopefully the Rays can kind of snuggle out of it. But and we'll go ahead and mention the guy's name. I mean, the fact that calling up Bill Boyle, I know we'll get to it more in the third segment, but I think that might breathe a little bit of life into the pitching staff, and particularly the bullpen, and how he will be utilized. Because if he's on like he was on Sunday, teams are going to have a really, really tough time in the couple of innings that he'll be rolling out for on a particular basis.
Yeah, but I think the biggest thing right now is the late leads being given up. That cannot happen, because I know that we are very enthused right now about the offense and how it has performed in the last 7-8 weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the DNA of what the Rays need to be doing well to win games. They need to pitch well. They need to defend the ball. Like that's the DNA, right? So if you can't hold leads and you're not going to be scoring a lot of runs, I know it's been a great 8 weeks, but that's not who this team is. I know people might be forgetting what happened April and half of May, and be really enthused about the later part of May and June. I'm not going to forget it. And I feel like it's incredibly important for the late leads to not be blown away. And that's what you've seen in the last week, 2 weeks, where you think that the game is over and you can put a W on the board, and they haven't been able to do that. So I think that's the biggest thing. And, I am hoping that, with Mason going down, Mason Englert coming up, Mason for Mason, basically, Englert has found something in AAA, hopefully, and Fairbanks is a little bit more rested from being utilized in back-to-back outings throughout the week. They couldn't even get the ball to him in Minnesota, man, on Friday and Saturday. So hopefully, but I right now I'm not really even like you said, Kim gets hurt. Yeah, hopefully he's not an IL stint. That's not what they've said so far, but it's the bullpen for me right now, because like you said, Kim hasn't been a part of it. So him not playing the rest of the week, I'm not that concerned about it. Bilal, a little bit more concerned about it. But right now, I just need to see a little bit more stability from the bullpen for me to feel, like this team is really who we've seen the last 8 weeks.
Now, is a guy named Peter Strzelecki the answer for you? The Rays did sign him to a minor league deal. He is a USF product, by the way. In parts of 3 seasons in the majors, he has a 5-6 record, 3.44 ERA in 77 games. He was last with the Guardians in 2024, and he was most recently with the Pirates AAA club. I mean, this could be a case of the Rays see something in this individual and feel like he can, help them out for a couple weeks or a couple months, or they're just throwing crap to the wall and hoping that something sticks. I think ultimately the best answer, the most effective answer, it might be costly in terms of prospects and whatnot, but it's going out and getting, a quasi name brand reliever, or again, not one of the heavy hitters necessarily, but somebody that has proved their mettle and might be slightly under the radar, that the Rays can pick up and put them in a role to be extremely successful in the later innings. Because based on what we saw, Montgomery wasn't getting it done. Clevenger wasn't getting it done. Uceta wasn't getting it done. Kelly wasn't getting it done. How many more guys do we have to run through that we're really, truly confident in?
Exactly. Honestly, like you get to the 7th inning, who do you give the ball to?
Yeah.
You can't do that to Pete Fairbanks all the time either. So
the opposing teams are probably licking their chops of like, yeah, once we get through the starters, we're good. Let's just take pitches for the first 5 2/3 innings, and let's get to that bullpen. Sans Pete Fairbanks, and we can make something happen on our own. Some
battle, see pitches, battle, and then you get to, which shouldn't happen. The Rays' strength should be the bullpen. But look, with Peter, can you say his last name 5 times fast?
No, I'll say it once more, Strzelecki, and I hope I did it somewhat justice because I have a habit of butchering first and last names, but that's how I read it anyway. Strzelecki.
Big USF Pete. Hopefully he is an addition. I like the addition. I don't think he's going to be the answer, but I like the addition. I like the movement from the front office to address something that needs to be addressed. And something that needs to be addressed, Kev, honestly, is the fact that Rays never really seem to get a lot of love in all-star nods, but we first got to talk to you guys about something very important on the Locked On Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ever wish managing your money felt easier? Well, with Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning that big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money, it's more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. We all like that, right? So go ahead, take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. All right, I will note this, just focusing on bullpen relievers and so forth. Sometimes it's a guy that not many people have heard of that go out and light the world on fire. And other times it's a guy that you sign for, a $6.5 million deal that totally plummets. So I would imagine if the Rays targeted this guy, that there's something they like about him. So we'll just see if it works out on the field.
Yeah. And again, like if there's one single team that you can put green Skittles on, that a guy that you don't know is going to pop off in the bullpen, it'll be the Rays. So yeah, definitely. All I'm saying is I don't think he's going to be the answer to stabilize the bullpen, but I really like the addition and I hope that it works out. Yes.
Also what we like is the Rays getting a couple of all-stars. We'd like to see more. We'd like to see Junior Caminero be an all-star. We'd like to see maybe Yandy Diaz be an all-star. Maybe one of our starting pitchers be an all-star. Relievers, maybe not so much. But Brandon Lowe and Jonathan Aranda were officially named to the American League All-Star squad, voted in by their peers through the players balloting. And it was only a matter of time. Obviously, the Rays, every team has to have at least one all-star. So it was nice to get 2 nods there in one. And it's not over. I mean, there could be additional additions if players back out for injury and whatnot. So maybe the Rays do get a 3rd or a 4th all-star in there. But as we know, today, on this date, Brandon Lowe and Jonathan Aranda will get the prestige and recognition that they duly deserve because they have been lighting the world on fire in their respective positions and respective roles. And, both of these guys have dealt with things over the years. Brandon Lowe, mainly injuries. Jonathan Aranda, some injuries, but also just, him really having to work and grind and plead to get that full-time opportunity. And you see that when he does get that opportunity, he made the most of it. So he's really kind of an example for these younger guys of, it might take you a couple years to find your footing. Don't lose hope, Curtis Mead. Don't lose hope, Chandler Simpson. Don't lose hope, Jake Mangum, because maybe this could be you one day. And we hope this is, the first of many all-star appearances for Jonathan Aranda and maybe a couple more for Brandon Lowe in a Rays uniform. But I mean, their numbers offensively just say it all. Like you look at their numbers to this point and you say, yep, that's all-star caliber. Yep, that's all-star caliber. Versus some guys that, were chosen for the all-star, whether it's American League or National League, maybe not so deserving of being all-stars, but you can absolutely not argue that with these two individuals.
No, I don't think anybody has any claim that they shouldn't be there. Good for Brandon, good for Jonathan and Aranda. I will say this. It was very interesting that the players voted actually more for Jonathan Aranda than Vladito.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that. I like seeing that. And we talked about this. Fan vote, please, use it for the home run derby, if anything. All-star nominations are incredibly serious for arbitration, for sponsorships, for everything else. So I don't think there should be something like Julio Rodriguez being an all-star when I think somebody put it on Twitter that Rowdy Tellez got DFA'd and he basically had the same numbers as Julio Rodriguez. Like,
oh my God.
Okay. Yeah. So that cannot happen. But regardless of that, very good news for Jonathan, very good news for Brandon. It's good to see them being recognized. Now, I do remember this. I think when we said right before the season, we had like give me your hot take of what the 2025 season is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And we said a hot take is something that the majority of Rays fans are going to give you grief about it, but we want it to be fun. I remember that your hot take, Kevin, was that the Rays were not going to have 1 or 2 all-stars, but they were going to have 5 all-stars. Yeah. Okay.
I got some work to do.
No. Wait, go ahead. No, hold up. This is not an indictment. On the contraire, my friend, I'm saying you might have been completely right because Jonathan Aranda and Brendan Lowe, and that you're telling me that you don't see Junior Caminero being an option as being elected, instead of Alex Bregman, who hasn't played since like May 20th.
Yeah.
He was snubbed. You can talk about Yandy Diaz being snubbed in the DH role. I think we can all see Yandy Diaz's numbers and be like, yeah, he should be an all-star, or at least he has an argument to be that. Now we got 4. And the 5th guy, Drew Rasmussen. Shouldn't Drew Rasmussen, with his numbers, doesn't he have some sort of argument to be in the all-star squad? Not that any of the all-star pitchers that were elected should not be there, because I do think that they were all incredibly talented and they do have numbers. But Rasmussen's right there. So to your hot take from before the season started, very good, sir, because those are 5 names that definitely have numbers to make an argument.
Yeah, maybe my hot take next year will be there will be 4, 5, 6 guys that legitimately could be all-stars, but because of the way the voting is situated, that a guy who misses 6 weeks of the season and hasn't played since May 23rd will get in. And I'm talking about Alex Bregman there and some others that are not so deserving. But yeah, we could legitimately make a case that the Rays could have 4, 5, or 6. And that's a good thing. I mean, it just shows where they are right now in the standings, besides what happened in Minnesota there. And, I think, part of the reason boosting up Jonathan Aranda a little bit, I mean, maybe some of the players have a little bit of Vladito fatigue that he's getting in every year and that he just got that, $500 million deal. If you get that kind of money, and I know in today's economy, $500 million isn't the same as what it was 10, 15 years ago, that, contracts like that are being thrown around left and right. But you're putting forth that amount of money. I want numbers quasi similar to Aaron Judge, and he's just not showing it. I mean, he's good. He's really good, but
he's really good.
As good as $500 million? That's something to think about and ponder on there. One guy who maybe in time could be an all-star, that is Joe Boyle. He got the call up this past weekend, and the Rays have a plan, like we suggested and alluded to. The plan, the MO is this: Drew Rasmussen will keep starting, but pitch limited innings, while Boyle will work in relief and handle bulk innings. For the record, this is something that the Rays and the coaching staff and the front office staff broached with Drew and said, hey, this is the situation. This is what we're looking at. How do you feel about it? And I think Drew, being a true professional, he understands and knows that this is ultimately best for him long-term and this year and going into the playoffs. So I think this is going to be a great marriage between those two, just seeing Drew and then Boyle work off of him. And Boyle. He is something to behold. Because on Sunday he went 5 innings through 95 pitches. 14 of those pitches were at 99 miles per hour. That might not be the most impressive thing. Maybe the most impressive thing was the fact that he has a splitter at 94 miles per hour that goes in one direction, a slider at 91 miles per hour that goes in another direction, and he gets some really wild and wacky swings. Like, if he's able to be, before you get to 2 strikes, if he's around the strike zone, he's going to be in good shape. And then when you're 0-2, 1-2, even 2-2, you can pretty much throw those breaking balls wherever you want, and you're going to get a nasty looking swing. And, that's pretty much what we saw over the weekend. I think I can't remember how many strikeouts he had, but it was a good number in the amount of innings he threw there.
And incredible because he also has that imposing figure. So
Yes.
It just seems like that extension is going to give him so much of an easier way of making it seem like it's even faster than what the actual pitch is. I'm trying to see right now how many strikeouts he had, because I can tell you that he definitely did not allow an earned run, and he hasn't allowed an earned run.
I think he had 7 strikeouts.
7 strikeouts in 5 innings. Yeah. And the run he allowed, it wasn't clean. So yeah, he's yet to give up an earned run so far in 5 plus 5. So he's done 10 innings of work so far. Hey, that's why if you are really into Tampa Bay Rays baseball, you're going to get entertained, hopefully, and informed. And we definitely talked about this being a possibility. And I'm so happy that it is, because you keep Drew Rasmussen in his pace. You don't shut him off. You don't do a phantom IL sort of thing. You just keep him as he's going. Just shorten his outings to 2-3 innings at most. And then you get Joe Boyle, who has done exactly what you need to be doing in AAA. Destroy your opposition so that you actually get the call up. And he gets the call up, and he is doing really, really well. And now it's a situation where I know people were maybe saying hey, if you do that, though, the bullpen's going to get even weaker, because now you have 6 starters instead of actually, a beefier bullpen. You're taking away one piece in the bullpen. Paul Gervais and Joe Rock didn't see any sort of action in the last 10 days. I know Joe Rock has just been demoted, but they didn't pitch anything. So it's not they're using every single piece in the bullpen. Maybe they should, because the bullpen is being a concern. But regardless, I think this is ultimately a really good idea, because you keep Drew fresh. You give Joe Boyle the opportunity to do so, to make his major league debut. And he needs to be, because he is definitely doing it in the highest level possible. And hopefully it keeps going. But yeah, I'm really happy that they've actually made this decision.
Do you see Boyle, say next year, do you see him becoming a true starter, or the Rays are going to keep playing out the string on this bulk relief option? Or maybe they say, yes, you have 3 pitches, but we see you as a closer down the line as Pete Fairbanks becomes more expensive. Or, our man next to Pete Fairbanks as the 8-inning guy. I mean, right now, I think this situation should work, but I'll imagine there'll be a point in time where they have to figure out what his long-term role is.
And I think that'll solve itself either by injury or easier than is Zach Littell, right? So if Zach Littell either gets traded or walks away as a free agent after this year, then you have your answer right there. Now, the real issue would be okay, then what do you do with Shane McClanahan?
Yeah.
Then you have that. I do think Joe Boyle has the stuff to graduate from being a bulk to a regular starter. I do think so. Yarbrough and Chirinos and Fleming, maybe those were flimsier options. I see Boyle as more of a sturdy option than those 3 guys to graduate.
Yeah, assuming his arm could be able to hold up for that amount of time, because he does throw hard. He is pretty aggressive with his motion, and you work on 150, 160 innings. Who knows what's going to happen at that point? So I think the Rays have to be very judicious about what they decide to do with him.
A lot of moving parts too, Kev. I mean, he's a very tall guy. What is he, 6'7" or something like that? So
They list him at 6'8", 250, and I think he's pretty much every bit of that. And yeah, it's just arms and legs just throwing at you. Yeah. And I mean, I don't even think, like you mentioned the extension. His extension's good, but it's not like I think it was Tyler Glass now, and there's some other guys that are just revered for their extension. But really, that doesn't matter. I mean, if you're in the 65th percentile in extension and you're 6'8", you're still doing what needs to be done to make that fastball and that splitter and that slider look another notch or two above what it actually is.
Yeah, and that's something I would think that you could work on with Kyle Snyder and company. So, no, it could even get better, and he could even get more imposing.
The only downfall is I don't want him fielding bunts or grounders. I feel like that could be all
over the place
to happen. We've seen that many a time with pitchers, but when you get to that size, it's one thing for a guy that's 6'1" or 6'2" to be able to show his athleticism in there, but when you're that big and that gangly, man, I just hopefully he's just striking everybody out. And
there you go. Hey, you don't need to field your position when you strike everybody out, right?
Exactly.
That's something else. But yeah, very, very happy that they made this move. Very happy that we talked about it before they did the move. So, yeah, man, now they have to show up against stronger competition within the same division here with the Detroit Tigers, and then close it out with the Boston Red Sox for 4 games, and then the All-Star break. So that 11-8 that I wanted to happen before, those 19 games that they had.
Yeah, where are we at right now?
They're 6-6, and they've played 12. So with 19 to go, seven left, they would have to win 5 out of their next 7 games to go 11-8.
That's a tall order. That is a tall order as you're creeping into. I mean, guys just got to be totally beat right now, and that might be why some guys are dealing with nicks and ailments, and who even knows? Maybe that's why some of these relievers are getting beat up a little bit, as they're not used to that major league schedule and all the road travel and pitching in the heat and all that. I guess I'm just making excuses for that.
No. I mean, those are all valid, right? But I'll put it to you this way: with 3 against Detroit, 4 against Boston, they're 6-6. Kevin, before the All-Star game, those 19 games, what's going to be the record?
So the Rays are, what are they right now?
They're 6-6 with 7 games to go. 3 against Detroit, 4 against the Red Sox.
I mean, I hate to be negative, but I could see him going 3-4 down the stretch.
So I'm thinking, what you're thinking? 1 win against Detroit and then split against the Red Sox.
Yeah, something to that effect, and then that would put him at, I guess, 9-10.
Yeah,
and then recoup after the All-Star break. And
it's been a very long road trip, so it's not like that's a bad one. Honestly, like if you hold Fort 9-10. That'd be great. I think if you scratch out, that's why the 11-8, I was like so happy. I was like, oh my gosh, if you're able to. Can they win 5 out of their next 7? I don't think so.
I mean, I guess they're just going to have to put up so many runs that, the bullpen can lay a couple eggs and the Rays still find a way to pull it out. That you might need to go on a couple offensive explosions, like putting up a 6 spot in a single inning. I mean, I'm sorry, but that might be the juncture we're at, just to crawl to the break.
Let's hope for that then. Let's do that.
All right, let's do it. All right, thank you for making the Locked On Rays podcast your first listen every day. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Local analysis on a national scale. You can find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on the YouTubes or wherever you listen to podcasts.